Hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be looking at Ball watches. We're going to be reviewing their best-selling model, courtesy of Saltzman's watches, of course. Thank you very much to Saltzman's for lending this watch out for review. We're going to be looking at its history, the history of the brand, because it's something very unique, very specific to American history. In fact, I would go so far to say it's very important to American history. I was unaware of the importance of the Ball Watch Company to American locomotive history and transportation history in this country. It's something that now I've learned a little bit more about it. I really kind of appreciate what an amazing historic heritage brand Ball watches really are. Now, of course, before I get too far into this video, I should do a wristwatch check. I've got my Marathon, this is the mid-size diver on my right, and on my left I've still got my Navitimer, which I've reviewed both of these watches, checking the archives for the reviews of those. So I've got the laptop out because I've got a hell of a lot of notes. I've got a few emails here, all different kinds of information about the Ball Watch Company. After this we'll take a closer look at the Trainmaster Eternity, which is fantastic little dress watch that's actually quite tough. It's got some amazing amazing little features. Ball Watch Company is an American watch company, but it's now based in Switzerland. It was founded in 1891 by Webb C. Ball in Cleveland, Ohio, and is directly linked to American railroad history. You know, it's no surprise, you'll see the locomotives and the steam engines. They appear in a lot of the Ball advertising, and actually stylistically they always have a nod to that kind of, you'll see design cues in the watch later on that really do remind you of a steam engine and things like that. Now, before the development of railroads across the United States, there was no need for standardized time. When trains began to connect really distant cities, it got problematic and it became difficult to avoid collisions. In fact, there was a major collision, and part of the response of that was to have a standardized time. On April the 18th, 1891, there was a head-on collision between two trains in Kipton, Ohio, resulting in several human deaths. At the time, trains were using the same lines in opposite directions, so you can imagine, quite terrifying. They had to cross each other at defined crossing points. That day, one of the conductor's watches stopped for 4 minutes, leading to a fatal collision. In order to make the train ride safer for travellers, employees of the railroad, Webb C. Ball was designated Chief Time Inspector. He set up tests and standards for all the watches used on the trains. Ball's criteria, now this is really where it gets really interesting. So what was invented was the RR system, and an RR stands for railroad, and you'll see it engraved on the back. Very significant. So, you know, when you look at the watch, that history is there, that heritage is represented, and you'll notice the little RR emblem later on when we have a closer look at the watch. So Webb C. Ball set up the RR standard, the railroad standard, to assure a high accuracy and perfect reading of all railroad employees. He also created the Ball Time Service, an after-sales service in which every employee of the rails had to bring in his watch every 2 weeks to make sure the accuracy and reliability met their standards. Now, the RR standard specifies that the watch has to have no lid on the dial, size has to be quite large. Now, bear in mind, this is a pocket watch. It has to be between 44.86 millimeters and 43.17 millimeters. Has to have a plain white dial, bold black hands and Arabic numbers, a winding stem at 12 o'clock, minimum 17 jewels, must have a double roller, must be lever set, must be adjusted to a temperature between 40 and 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and the accuracy must not gain or lose a maximum of 30 seconds a week. Even by today's standards, that's pretty pretty stringent. Now Ball also is very famous for their innovations. They have pretty much every model uses tritium micro gas tubes, which allow perfect visibility in the dark. They all have crown protection system. Ball uses a protection system to make sure no water can get inside the watch. They do have an anti-shock system. They have their own spring lock system, A-proof system, which is again the A-proof system is an anti-magnetic field resistance, and a slide chronograph. These are all their own innovations. It's really fascinating. I really overlooked this brand. If you want to find out more, have a look at their Wikipedia. I'll also send you, if you look at the Ball website, there's a really in-depth history behind the brand, and it's fascinating. You know, they're very much still committed to their original American roots, and I love that. Now, of course, they were a family business, I think up until the 90s. Let me just check. The Ball Watch Company was family owned up until the early 1990s. The company is now headquartered in Switzerland with a US entity in Florida. The new Ball Watch Company has stayed true to its American roots and continues to take Swiss ETA calibers and modify them to this quite stringent standard, and it's their own standard. I think that's so cool. It's very much inspired by the Swiss Official Testing Institute's COSC certification, but it's their own standard, which I really think is quite cool. Okay, now I've been babbling on far too much. Let's switch perspectives now and have a closer look at the Ball Trainmaster Eternity. And the reference number is NM2080D-SJ-SL. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that I have indeed taken off the bracelet. It's a dress watch, so I figured I would show it off on something to bring a little bit more pizzazz. And this is a beautiful suede leather. This is incredibly soft, and I have reviewed this strap on previous videos. This is from Holben's Watch Strap Company, and this is handmade in Germany. It's absolutely stunning. So this being the first watch from Ball I've ever taken a look at, I figured I'd start with their most popular model, and this is an entry-level piece. Well, an entry-level for their timepieces. Their timepieces rarely do go from the mid-range all the way to really kind of almost higher-end luxury timepieces with some amazing technology that they're famous for. This very much is one of their more basic models. Nonetheless, it has so much character, so much charm, so many fantastic little details of design in it that make it so specifically special to Ball. So let's have a look at the dimensions first. Now, I have covered this with sellotape so not to scratch the stainless steel, so please bear in mind. We got a diameter of just under 40 millimeters, 39.5 to be a bit more precise. We got a depth or thickness of just under 12, and then lug to lug we're looking at about 46 millimeters, 20 millimeters lug width there. So really quite a nice all-round scale and size. This watch is great for smaller, medium and larger wrists alike because of its lugs that just curve around. Remind me a bit like the Glycine Combat, with a lovely stainless steel polished case, with beautiful beveled edges here, entirely polished. There isn't any brushed surfaces on this, except for on the back in certain parts of the movement. We of course have sapphire glass on the front and on the display back. Inside we have the ETA or ETA 2836-2 movement. This is a day-date movement, obviously, as you see the day-date communication on the front. But this has been heavily modified by Ball to their own standards, which is something they're really famous for doing, and actually goes into this little, if this thing will ever focus, this little logo here, the R&R. This became a standard, kind of a symbol for timing excellence in the early railroad days, and you'll see it again here on the anchor, and again echoed on the push button. Beautiful fold over clasp here. We'll get into the bracelet in just a moment. It clicks down like such, and then that clicks down like that, and you just lift this one up. So you see the little railroad standard monogram, something that is only specific to Ball Watch Company, which I think is a beautiful touch. So the movement has a 38-hour power reserve, and one of the modifications, quite interestingly, is there's a tiny bit of decoration. You'll see occasionally, if we just get the pencil in again, there's a few blue screws. You know, we've got a custom rotor here, obviously. Nothing overly fancy. Maybe a little bit of a disappointment. It would have been nice to see, especially at this, sorry, it's losing focus again. Would have been nice to see some more decoration, certainly. I do like the way they've done this kind of very miniature screws that kind of echo that train automotive look that is echoed here with the screw down crown. It's quite an interesting one. I haven't seen a sapphire caseback done like this before. We have the actual name engraved on the inside rather than usually it's on around the outside. It's a nice touch. It's certainly something different. It's just a shame that the movement isn't a little bit more decorated. I've seen movements in watches, you know, now underground with more decorated movements. But however, you're not paying for decoration here. You are paying for accuracy, reliability, and that is what Ball have done. They've really carefully regulated this and modified it to get the most out of the CTA movement. This is a 25 jewel movement, and interestingly enough, their main modification is a 5,000 G's shock resistance. So it is quite tough. I mean, it can take a beating, and that kind of echoes their history in the railroad, where the watches had to be reliable. They had to take a bit of a tumble and a shock because of people really being quite active with their watches, and that really harkens back to their early history. So we got this screw down crown, which again, if we just have a look at it, looks a bit like the front of an old steam train, and I really like that. It's something that Ball has kind of kept, these little nods to their locomotive history. So we just unscrew it, pops out, and then of course the movement is hackable. We have a quick set date there. Just pop it back in. It feels very nice and smooth. Certainly a higher quality ETA than something you'd find under $1,000. Then threads back very nicely indeed. So let's have a look at this dial. We have 14 tritium tubes. This is again something that Ball really is something that's just so typical of a Ball watch. They always use tritium illumination. So these are T25 tritium illumination tubes. There are 14 tubes in the watch itself, 2 on the hands, the sword hands here, and 12 around the dial. Now these are in blue, I believe. We'll switch to a loom shot as I do this. And then the one at the top, the 12 o'clock position, is in a kind of greeny yellow tint, so you can easily distinguish where the 12 o'clock position is. And I love tritium. I have it in my little marathon here, and it's a fantastic luminescence and a really great way to have something that is just reliable, and it's never going to run out. Well, it runs out I think after about 25 years, but you know, it lasts for the lifetime of the watch basically. We've got this beautiful, really nicely done day-date display here, and the dial itself has this kind of, it's not a linen pattern like on my vintage Tudor day-date. It's this kind of almost like a meteorite dial. It's very beautiful and really catches the light, and you can see that it must be very difficult to print on, but the logo, just look how it plays with the light, but the logo is done impeccably well. You see the Ball, and then the official railroad standard since 1891, automatic, 30 meters, so we've got 30 meters of water resistance, and it's, you know, basically never do any washing up or anything like that, but it's enough for a dress watch. I would have preferred it something a little more. And then there's a beautiful curve to it, and I just love those applied markers with the tubing just placed in the middle perfectly. Really done impeccably well. The quality and attention to detail is astounding. The quality of this really actually reminds me of Breitling. It's at that level, and I happen to have my Breitling on. at the moment. Now it does come in a black dial and a blue dial, but a great thing about a white dial like this is you can really play with the strap colours and have really cool combinations. There isn't a strap that this thing won't go with. Quality of the craftsmanship, the finishing is absolutely impeccable. Certainly I would say up there with the big boys Omega and Breitling. It's of that calibre, I really do mean that. Let's just have a quick look at the bracelet. Quite interesting bracelet with polished centre links and then the brushed outer links. Screws on the links, which is a really nice touch, and this double fold over clasp. And just opens like such. The craftsmanship and the quality here again is impeccable. Very nice, solid feel, beautifully done. And of course you get solid end links. I wouldn't expect anything else. Really do like the bracelet. However, for me, a dress watch really comes to life with different straps, and this would look amazing on a lizard strap or a crocodile or even an ostrich, something like that, because of its quite minimalist. It's definitely not Bauhaus. It's a little bit more involved in that. It's a very American style. The American kind of turn of the century, I would say, aesthetic is echoed all from this conical crown to its hands to the logo. It's very kind of no nonsense. Even its size, it's a little bigger than you'd really want it, but there is a kind of classic American aesthetic to it, which I really do like. It's funny, it does make me think of steam engines and trains, so Ball definitely have done a good job there. It's not Bauhaus, because Bauhaus is even more minimalist and more functional than that. Okay, so let's summarize and look at the good and the negative points of this watch. Well, the good points are, of course, it's outstanding quality. It's a very classic design that I think will age extremely well. It's a heritage brand that has a long, prestigious history of watchmaking, and I think it's very tastefully done. It's a brand that I think has been highly overlooked. We've got some fantastic features, like the 5000 G's shock protection, the tritium tubes there, a lovely day date, and it's executed impeccably well. There's really I can't find any faults with this watch whatsoever. It performs impeccably. It is not chronometer certified, but so far has certainly performed as good as. So it's definitely a quality Swiss timepiece, and is a brand that, you hear the trains in the background, how fitting. It's like it's fate. Very fitting for this watch review. Anyway, I think it's priced. Yeah, there's a real choo-choo train there. I think you're paying here for a really excellent standard of quality that is definitely worth the asking price. It's a very well designed watch, and I find very hard to fault anything about its design. On a negative, I could say it's a little bit too large. I would have preferred a 38mm, but that's just because of my small wrists. However, it still fits absolutely fine. In fact, I'll do a wrist shot right now. Okay, so here we are. Here's a nice wrist shot. So it is on the larger size. I would have preferred 38mm, but because of its shape, because of its that lovely curve, it's quite thin, really does hug the wrist well. It's very comfortable. It's a very solid feeling watch, really quite elegant. It catches the light beautifully, especially that kind of textured dial. It's unlike anything I've had before. Another slight downside, I would love to see a little bit more decoration on the movement, but I understand that Ball go in for reliability and accuracy and shock protection over aesthetics. I mean, they've done just enough to make it look good, so to speak. But I do feel that had this had a little bit more extra decoration, I would have, I would be willing to pay even more. I think that definitely would be nice to have had a little bit more attention to it. Having said that, it is an extremely nice watch. Okay guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Let's take it back to the studio. Okay, welcome back guys. Now, I hope you found that interesting. Certainly a very unique watch. I really like the Ball brand history. I really like what they're doing with the designs. They're very exciting. If you want to nominate a ball watch for me to review, have a look at the Saltzman's website. Please nominate down in the comments below whatever ball watch you want me to review, and they have. I will see if I can get my hands on it, because it's definitely a watch brand that I've got my eye on. The quality is there, the heritage is there, they perform impeccably thanks to their own RR standard. It's a brand that, you know, I'm very excited about. Okay guys, now before I leave you, I just want to tell you a fantastic little discount you can get by being a viewer and supporter of the show. Just mention that you watch the channel, or that you support the show. You mention my name, TGV, the Urban Gentry channel, and you will get 15% off any ball watch. And I think that's fantastic. I think Saltzman's have been such good sports. It's very generous of them. I cannot recommend them enough. I recently just bought a new timepiece. I'm not going to say too much because I want to keep it a surprise. But the service is always impeccable. They're always fantastic to deal with. I trust them 100%. If you're also interested in glycine, they offer a, let me get this right, a 30% discount on any glycines that they sell as well, but simply by mentioning the show. So that's 15% off any ball watch by mentioning the show, and 30% off for any glycine watches. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much for watching, and please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one. Okay guys, ciao.